When we have a fraction further away from 0 than 1, for example, in this picture, 3/2 or -3/2, we call that an improper fraction. Fractions that are exactly 1 away from 0, like 2/2 and -2/2, so fractions that are equal to 1 or to -1, those are still improper. The proper fractions live between -1 and 1, and the improper fractions live outside there. When we have an improper fraction, there's another way that we sometimes want to express it. When we have an improper fraction, sometimes, but only sometimes, we want to express it as a mixed number. So what is a mixed number? A mixed number is a way of expressing an improper fraction as a whole number part and a proper fraction part. The purpose of expressing a fraction as a mixed number is to make it obvious what two whole numbers it falls in between, so to make it easier to find on the number line. So let's take a look again at those improper fractions, 3/2 and -3/2. To get to 3/2, I could go 1/2, 2/2, 3/2. Right? That's what I mean when I write 3/2. But there's another way that I could get there. I could go to 1, and then, in addition, an extra half. The other way I could get to 3/2 is by taking the whole number 1 and adding on to it the fraction 1/2. And 1 and 1/2 is another way of describing this point, 3/2. We say they're equal because they're different ways of writing the same number. Similarly, to get to -3/2, I could go -1/2, -2/2, -3/2. That's what it means to say I have -3/2. Or I could go out to -1, and then -1/2 beyond that. So we see -1.5 means -1 plus -1/2. Note, these are both negative. To get to -1.5, I go out to -1, and then a further half to the right. And again, because they represent the same number, we say -1.5 is equal to -3/2. All right, without drawing the picture, how do we express a fraction as a mixed number or a mixed number as a fraction? Let's say we have the mixed number -3 1/5. Now this time I'm going to draw the picture, but hopefully next time we won't have to. So to look at fifths, I need to split each unit into 5 equal parts. Let's see, that's going to look something like this. To get to -3 1/5, I'll go to -3 and then 1/5 beyond it. This point right here is -3 1/5. Okay, well, looking at this number line, I can see how many fifths I need to get out to -3 1/5. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? I'm going to do that again. 5, and then another 5 is going to make 10, and then another 5 is going to make 15. Okay. Do you see what's happening here? Each whole unit is 5/5. So 3 whole units is 15/5, because 3 times 5 is 15. And then add in one more fifth. -3 and 1/5 is 16/5. What do we do when we go to express a mixed number as a fraction? We see that the sign, positive or negative, stays the same. Right, because if I'm to the left of 0, no matter how I write my number, it's to the left of 0. If I'm to the right of 0, no matter how I write my number, it's to the right of 0. The denominator stays the same. No matter how I write my number, the number of pieces my unit is divided up into doesn't change. To find the new numerator, we take the whole number part times the denominator, and we add in the old numerator. So in our example, the sign stayed the same, the denominator stayed the same, and the new numerator, we took 3 times 5, the whole number part times the old denominator plus the old numerator. Let's do an example without the picture, which is good because this is a picture that we wouldn't want to draw, right? The sign stays the same, it's still positive. The denominator stays the same. To find the new numerator, we take each of our 7 whole things and cut it into 8 equal parts. Add in the 1/8 that we started with. 7 times 8 is 56, so we get 57/8. By the way, I like a plan for figuring this out that doesn't involve counting to 57, right? You may absolutely use a calculator for this arithmetic. We'll talk later on about how we really manipulate mixed numbers inside the calculator. Okay, what about the other way? What if we want to express a fraction as a mixed number? Well, note, this is only interesting for improper fractions. If you have a proper fraction, like 6/9, well, that's 0 whole things and 6/9, right? Not very interesting, because 6/9 is less than 1 whole thing. So let's say we want to write 11/4 as a mixed number. Now I'm going to put 0 near the left, because I'm only going to be interested in positive numbers in this picture. It isn't obvious by looking what 2 integers this is going to be in between, but I hope going out to 4 is going to be enough. If I want to look at fourths, I need to split each unit into 4 equal parts. And then, let's see. You know, I'm going to count by 4s. Right, we start with 0/4 at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4/4, 8/4, 12/4. Oh, I went too far. And 8/4, 9/4, 10/4, 11/4. Here it is, 11/4. Well, I can now see how to get here, right? I go from 0 out to 2, and then beyond 2 I need 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So my 11/4 is 2 and 3/4. This picture suggests what we need to do, though. In fact, the bit that suggests what we need to do is this bit where we counted by 4s, right? we know that each whole unit is going to be 4/4. The whole number part says how many groups of 4/4 could I get? And then the fraction part is how many fourths are left over. What we want is the quotient and remainder. Remember how we said we could think of 11 divided by 4 as being just 11/4? Well, if we do the division, 4 goes into 11 twice, using up 8, with 3 left over. So we can also think that 11 divided by 4 is 2 whole things, and then the 3 things that are left over, cut each one into 4 equal parts. Depending on our circumstances, any of these might be what we want when we ask about 11 divided by 4. But also, this gives us a method for rewriting a fraction as a mixed number. Let's see an example of that without the picture. Let's say we wanted to write 25/7 as a mixed number. Well, we can understand 25/7 as meaning 25 divided by 7. We do that division. 7 goes into 25 3 times, with 4 left over. So we get 3 whole things. The 4 that are left over, we cut each one into 7 equal parts. 25/7 is 3 4/7. One last question you may be asking. Do you remember when I said that sometimes we want to express an improper fraction as a mixed number? We don't always want a mixed number. So here's the question. When is it that we want a mixed number? Okay, so there are some things that it's easier to do with mixed numbers. They're easier to compare. It's easier to see which one is bigger, especially if they have different whole number parts. They're easier to find on a number line because you know which 2 whole numbers they're going to be in between. And they're easier to count out. What do I mean by this? If I'm sharing 29 candy bars between 5 people, I want 29 divided by 5, which I can think of as 29/5, or as 5 whole things and 4/5. It's easier to give everyone 5 whole bars and break up the last 4 than it is to break up all 29. So that's what I mean by a mixed number being easier to cut out. So that's what I mean by a mixed number being easier to count out. On the other hand, there's also a time when we prefer improper fractions. Improper fractions are typically easier to come up with, and they're typically easier to use in arithmetic. When we start to do arithmetic, we're going to find that we typically want to convert all of our mixed numbers into improper fractions before we do any calculations.